In the quiet moments before the world wakes up, there's a place where pain meets peace, where every breath feels like a prayer and grief stands still. We carry the weight of what was and search for meaning in the smallest things. And sometimes all it takes is one moment to remind us we're still here, still healing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Grief Let's Talk About podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I am the host of this podcast, and yes, we are your number one podcast to bring you stories around death, dying, and grief, all the messiness that comes in between, with some amazing people out here doing some amazing things, changing people's lives, one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And most importantly, maybe you know someone who could benefit from the conversation that we have. Please share this along with them. Now, this is a live stream, as I said before. So if you have any questions or comments, again, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them. One more thing before I bring on my guest. This is for educational purposes only. Okay. So now, without further ado, guys, help me welcome my next guest, Alicia Hurtt, to the show. Alicia.
How you doing, Tony?
I'm doing amazing. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Oh, man, look, I'm excited for this. I'm truly, truly excited from the first time that we had our conversation. I just been looking forward to this and having you share your story and your work, your amazing work with the audience. Now, before we get started, let's introduce yourself. Tell people who you are, where you're from, about the work that you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Alicia Hurtt. I am a servant leader in truly everything that I do. I'm a mother of 4, of which I was told I could not have, a wife of almost 20 years, a lover of God and of people. I am an overcomer of depression, anxiety, and I am here to just share, to love on women and to support them through their journey. I'm here in Bainbridge, Georgia, Southwest Georgia. I'm originally from Prince George's County, Palmer Park to be exact. I was born and raised in the DMV area. And once my mother was diagnosed with 4th stage lung cancer, almost 4 years now, I decided that when she does transition, I didn't want to be in the area anymore. I wanted an escape. I wanted to run. But lo and behold, in me thinking I was running to heal, I was opening a door that God wanted me to walk in. And so I've been here almost a year now. We've opened a brick and mortar called I See My Baby, a women's wellness center. And it stemmed out of my grief, out of me going through my own journey, overcoming infertility, a lack of faith and depression, and then turning that into my passion, my walk in serving the community.
I love that. And let's talk a little bit more about the work that you do. Like, what are some of the services that your organization provides?
Absolutely. So we provide coaching, and in that coaching, all of our services are bundled into that. And so we deal with the whole person, and then of course, the family comes as well, because in order for you to show up for yourself and to be the best person possible, we got to unpack some things. So I don't know if you've heard of the wellness wheel, but in that is all of the needs that you have. And so we provide a food program as well, because if I'm coaching you and talking to you, but you're trying to figure out how you're going to feed your family, it won't hit home, it won't resonate, and we won't get to the root cause. So we do that every 2nd and 4th Friday of the month. We have yoni steaming. That is a part of the coaching program for women. And so you steam for 45 minutes. It's a holistic process. Actually, Oprah kind of shone some light on what we do, because she unpacked the fact that as women, we go through 66 plus symptoms. And a lot of times we think we're dying, but it's just us going through our hormonal changes as we transition from puberty to perimenopause, to menopause, and then postmenopause. So that's an intricate part of our coaching. We also have at our center space for classes. We provide 4 to 10 classes, webinars a month. We have yoga and West African dance classes there, because you got to get moving. You got to get centered. You got to be able to get your mind and your body in order. And we do one-on-one sessions as well with our coaching. We've recently rolled out an addiction recovery group, and we meet every Friday. We have a certified advocate. Her name is Miss Patricia McNear. So when I know I may be overwhelming you, but it's on purpose, because I want you to know, and also your listeners to know, that we are a safe haven, and that we are the place where you go and seek refuge, solace, to be able to be poured into if you've gone through any trauma. Of course, infertility, but that could look different for everyone. And grief, the reason why I ended up here in the first place. We're here to support with that. And we are a Christian-based organization. So we're going to teach you and give you the tools that you need to have a deeper relationship with God, and what that looks like on a daily basis. Not just going to church on Sunday, but what you do intentionally Monday through Saturday to help build you up. Because a lot of times, I know for me, when I was going through my depression, I see God. Now, I was mad at him. However, I was still going through my processes. I was still reading, because I am a minister. And so I do know the power of prayer. Even if you have that like little faith right there, that mustard seed, it still goes a long way. God will meet you where you are. We also have rolled out the men's support services. Shout out to Mr. Patroy Reeves. He spearheads that. And so as I'm building up the women, he's supporting the men. As we're birthing the babies, they need support system. And so we want to have holistic services for that family to strengthen it. The area that we're in, we have a high number of single parent households. We have a high number of co-parenting that is not normalized, that we hear about it in domestic disputes and things of that sort. And so we're just here to be a value add and a solution, a resource to support our community.
I love that, man. I love that. I love the fact that you guys are tackling so many things in so many different areas as well, right? Because it's like I love that you said that you guys look at the whole person, not just part of the people. And that was something that when I first started this was the building blocks of why and how I do the things that I do. Instead of looking at the person in one little chunk going, oh, this is your grief over here. I go, no, this is your grief, this is your trauma, this is your mental health, this is your addiction. Now this is your body. Let's work on the major things first, right? And get those out the way. That way, as we begin to work on the smaller things, you can take a little bit of a breath, right? Because we want to get the butt whipping out the way first. That's my motto. Let's get the butt whipping out the way, because this is going to be the hardest part. And then as we begin to go, then you can take a step back and breathe, and listen to your heartbeat just for a little while longer, right? And that's just, that's just the approach I've always had at it. You know what I'm saying? Let's get the hardest stuff out the way. Now, let's talk about your journey, because you have an amazing journey. You mentioned before, your grief is how you got here. Your depression, and it's how you managed to do the things that you're doing, climbing up out of those holes, but also having faith. So let's go back. Let's go back to a little bit. What was your journey like leading up to where you started having your challenges with depression and grief?
Absolutely. So I got married very early on. I met my husband right out of high school, and we got married. My mom was like, y'all not shacking up. So we weren't shacking up. So we got married. Okay. We bought a house in Baltimore, Maryland, Dundalk to be exact. And we said, okay, let's do this. And I'm 21 and he was like 23. And so it was a rough road. However, we withstand. And I was like, all right, we need kids. And everybody's like, when y'all gonna have kids? And we looking at each other like, well, it's not, because we're not trying, And so I was at the height of my career, a manager in the government, and it just wasn't happening for me, helping the youth in the church as a minister. And so I'm just looking around and I'm like, okay, Lord, like I'm doing what you asked me to do. Why can't I have my heart's desire? So one day at work, I confided in a colleague and she referred me to Shady Grove Infertility. And so we went because I ran all the tests and everything. They just couldn't tell me what it was. So right off the bat, they tested both of us and I swore it was my husband. I was like, it's you. It ain't me. And so all the tests came back and sure enough, it was me. I was like, okay. So we had to go down that journey. So we went through in vitro 3 rounds. The first round we got pregnant. I was like, yes, we having a baby. And you had to keep on going back. And they were like, Miss Hurtt, unfortunately, baby stopped growing. I was like, okay, well, let's wait. I came back. They was like, it's the same thing. The baby's not growing. There's no heartbeat. They was like, we just need to do an elected D&C so that we don't have to prolong this and we can go ahead and do your next round of in vitro. I went through that. And when I tell you, I just felt so bad. I felt like less of a woman. I was just like, man, I can't do the one thing. He's going to leave. He's going to find somebody else. Everything that I've done. And I'm like, okay, I did my degree. I got married. Like I'm in the church, like just giving a whole list. Like I don't want to hear all that, but this is what I went through. And it was very dark. So I continued to live life. We went through another round. It didn't work. We went through another round. It didn't work. And I remember driving down the street one day and just hearing the enemy saying, well, you can't do that. Guess what? Open that door. Just end it. Why are you here? I thank God that I didn't. I thank God that I had that little bit of mustard seed faith and I just kept on driving. And I know that my parents' prayers, I know my friends' prayers, and definitely my husband's prayers is what covered me because it was dark. I just know I was just going through life, going to church, going to work, coming home, cooking or not, fussing with my husband for something that probably was trivial, but it's me hurting inside and me just attacking him. And we went through that for quite some time until one day, my husband has said to me, he had a vision that God showed him we were going to have a child. And I was like, well, if he said that to you, that's good because he's not talking to me. He's not granting my heart's desire. Like he's upset with me. And I just can't. I just can't with God. I can't. I mean, it's just, I don't know what's going on. I did go back to do in vitro another round because what I did is change the insurance so that we wouldn't have to pay out of pocket. And my husband's like, I'm not going to agree. And so the doctor was like, well, without him agreeing, and it's me trying to step out on my heart again, we can't do it. But he did send me to a specialist. He said, because your lining of your uterus was so tiny, maybe we can open it up a little bit. So I went back to him again after the procedure, and he was like, Miss Hurtt, I told you, you have to have your husband. And I was like, man. So he's like, we're not doing it. He's like, what that took us through as a couple, what it took you through as a person, we're not doing it. So if it's in the cards for us to have a child, then God will ensure that we have a child. So needless to say, I had to listen to him under protest, but we moved back to PG County, just like he said. And we lived in my parents' basement. And I kept continuing up with my doctor visits and things because I'm like, something has to be wrong. Like the doctor has to give me some type of diagnosis, some type of solution. And so they ended up saying they found something on my uterus and they needed to do a procedure. So I was like, all right, great. So they said, Ms. Hurtt, you have to do a pregnancy test in order for us to clear you to do the procedure. So I did it. So they called me the day before. They said, hey, Ms. Hurtt, guess what? We cannot do the procedure. And I was like, why? And they said, because you're pregnant. I was like, say what? You're pregnant. I called my husband. He was like, I already knew. God told me. I said, now see this thing with you and God, and he ain't talking to me, and he telling you everything. Like this is crazy. But needless to say, we had a baby. And that whole pregnancy, just what women go through. Oh my God. Like I was afraid to go to the bathroom. I thought my baby would fall out. Like I didn't want to be under high stress. I had to take time off work. I was like, oh my God, like they're going to tell me something's wrong. If I felt anything, I was like, oh, wait a minute. Let me run to the doctor. Like I was just so apprehensive, so nervous, so scared. had that little bit of faith, But we had a baby girl. And even in having her, she was born with the cord wrapped around her neck multiple times. She was limp, not breathing. They had to pull my baby out. And I went through Lamaze. We had a plan, a birth plan. We had keywords, all kind of stuff. All things we were prepped for, right? But we were not prepped for my baby to be born, not breathing. So I looked at my husband. I said, going over there. And they're pumping on my baby's chest. And I'm like, come on, God. We went through all of this for me to have my baby born, not breathing. Then I heard that cry. I said, thank you, Lord. And they put her in the NICU. She was over 8 pounds. So around Easter time, they called her Chocolate Bunny. She was the biggest one in the NICU, right? I would go. I would see her. I made sure I was pumping. I would see her. The doctors let me stay even an extra day. I was like, no, I can't go home without my baby. And I had to go home without my baby. I said, here we go again. I was like, nothing is easy for me. Why am I going through this? I'm trying not to get emotional, Tony. It's been 10 years. Okay, my baby's 10.
No, you're good, girl.
Like it was yesterday. I can still feel it. And that's why I'm so passionate about the work that I do for women. And I remember coming home, getting in that shower, and that shower was beating on me. And I kept telling my husband, like, man, what did I do? Like, what could we have? And he just kept consoling me. It's okay, Alicia. And I'm like, it's not okay, because I am not coming home with my child. And I made sure we went back and forth. Luckily, my parents didn't live far from the hospital, right in Clinton. So we would go back and forth. And my husband's like, you got to rest. My mom was like, you got to rest. And I was like, I can't rest until my baby is home with me. And she finally came home with me. I mean, the nurses was like, oh, you're going to be a good mother. And I was like, thank you so much. And I just strive for that, because I'm like, man, like, this is a precious gift from God. Like, I can't stop thanking you, Lord. We had the second baby. It was a gap in between that. And me and my husband, we went through some things, Tony. We did. We went through some things. However, I just thank God that he brought us back together to have my number two. My number two came, completely different birthing experience. I was still terrified. But she came out so quick, Tony, that the doctor almost missed her. Like how you got to catch the football. Like you got, that's how it was for my baby. Like she was coming, okay? She was coming. And then we had number three. Number three came back to back. Everybody asked, are they twins? Because they came, like they were back to back. They was almost a year apart. And when she came, she's slow and steady. She ain't really trying to come out. So then we had an emergency C-section. That was scary. I was like, man, none of my birthing experiences are like normal. Like they're all different. Like it's crazy. But thank God they did the C-section, because the cords were wrapped around her neck multiple times too. So that's why she can't come down, because it kept squeezing. Whereas my first one, she was just like, I'm coming. And so we had her. And so some years went on. I ended up having another miscarriage. And, I prayed for 4 kids. I prayed for 4. And I will always hear people prophesying and telling me I would have that baby boy. And we never had the baby boy. It's so funny, because we did a gender reveal, and for number 3, I think it was, and it was another girl, and my husband passed out on the lawn. It was so funny. He kicked the ball and it was pink. So when we finally got pregnant after that miscarriage, I was like, we doing a gender reveal. My husband's like, absolutely not. Because he was like, it's going to be another girl. He was like, I'm not doing that. So my best friend had the results. She knew. And I was just like, man, I'm looking at these results. He told me we ain't having it. So I'm looking. I was like, what? I was like, he should have had a gender reveal. So it ended up being a baby boy. And we did an elected C-section, because that was it. Like when I introduced my son, I say, this is the end. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, this is case closed, shop closed. God gave us what we wanted. This is the end. And they're like, oh, I get it. And we had that baby boy that everybody prophesied on. And it's just so, I call it crazy, but it's divine. It's God's timing. And he's been showing me throughout my journey that I have to lean on him and not Alicia's understanding, not my own, right? Which is so hard, and that I'm not in control. So I thought I was, but I'm not in control. And once I can release that and just surrender, which is where I am at 40 plus in surrender and true surrender, it clicks. And so if I can help women to get that little light bulb to go off before the 40s, man, we'll be so empowered. We will have so much joy. We will have less stress. Chronic illnesses won't come and creep up on us based on us trying to just hold and harbor and take the bull by the horns instead of saying, Lord, I trust you. I trust you fully. And guess what? I'm going to give you more than that little mustard seed faith. I'm going to give you big and bold faith, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is why I do what I do, because of that journey.
I love it. I love it. And I want you to mention something, right? And as a believer myself, the one thing that I struggled with after one of my most profound losses, the loss that, well, all of them took me out, but one of them really took me for a loop, right? That was the passing of my son. And when you talk about having the courage and the strength to lean on, the Creator, God, most people fall short, right? Because of the simple fact of if you the type of person that's always been in survival mode your whole entire time, not easily depending on other people, we have those words of I'll just figure it out type thing, right? What do you think keeps people from having the courage to lean on God in these most difficult moments, right? Because I know you mentioned too, and I'm gonna mention myself. I know a bigger portion of mine. I was angry all the time, right? I used to always say, I don't want to. I'm not going to do this, right? And that was my thing. Like, I'm not going to do it. Didn't depend on you before then. I'm not going to depend on you now. But then there was that humbling that came, the humbling through the humility, right? And it was like, you don't have to, but I'm going to put you in a situation to where you should, right? You're going to have to make a choice. And I tell you, the hardest thing that I ever did was to lean on him. But the best thing I ever did was to lean on him, because I realized that I wasn't strong enough to deal with it in the mindset and in the emotional place that I was at, right? Because automatically I thought to myself, like, I might as well go ahead and destroy the world, right? Just destroy the world. Everything. I would destroy the stars if that meant that I can get my son back. If that meant that I can get my loved ones back, I will destroy the moon, right? That's what I kept saying. But it was a lot simpler than all of that. It was just like, hey, I need some help. I'm not doing well right now. And I think that is a part of emotional intelligence as we begin to develop in this world, as we begin to experience what we like to call the human condition, which is eventually grief and death, just like you experience life. So going back to my question, what do you think is the biggest thing why most people struggle with leaning into the word and leaning into some of the hardest things in life?
One, because you don't physically see or touch him. You're like, we're in this microwave environment, right? It's like, I get it. I can touch it. I click a button. It's instant, right? You want instant gratification. You want him to move now on your terms. That's the hardest part, because God's going to say, hold on, wait a minute. First off, I'm a jealous God. You're going to have to give me some, my worship time, right? You're going to have to acknowledge me, right? We're going to have to have like, just like how you dating someone. It's not boom, bam. No. It's if you want it and it's something good, it's going to take time. It's going to take time.
Yeah.
And then God is like, I get it. But if I give it to you too quick, I give you things too quick. Like in my case, because we were married so young, if we had children young, we would have been a detriment to our children. We would not have been good parents. We probably would have been split up, and it just wouldn't be a good scenario. And so God knew what he was doing. He had to first mature us. He had to mature me and my husband, Daryl, and to prepare us for what we were going to receive. And then we went through hardship. In my very first book, we talked about it because I am a realtor as well. And so I'm transparent with my clients in that book, just showing how, I was able to have a house at 21, but then I lost it at 23, And so in that, do you want a child going through all of that? No. So God had to take time and build us up, strengthen us, right? Take us through something so that when we did get that baby girl, and she wasn't breathing, Tony, that we appreciate it, and we nurture her, and then also thank God, because when she turned 6 weeks, we were at that altar. I told my pastor, we're going to bless this child. We giving her back to the Lord right now. Right now, because he didn't have to give her to me, and in that, I'm able to cherish that. And really, like, it touches my heart, because I'm like, Lord, it was you. He needs you to know that it's him and not you. He's a jealous God. And so if it happened that fast, and I was like, oh yeah, I did that. Alicia did it again. All my accolades, all the things I can accomplish. No, it was God. And he want to make sure that it's him. And so in that, it's hard work. So it's easy for people to say, man, I ain't trying to do all that. I ain't trying to go to church. I ain't trying to read no Bible. I ain't trying to do all of that. For what? But then, like you said, it was the hardest thing, but it was the easiest thing. For me, where I am, where I'm walking, it's like, Lord, I give it to you. It's so much easier now. Why am I carrying it around? I remember when my mother first got sick and diagnosed with 4th-stage lung cancer. I felt so bad. I was like, man, what should I do? Should I go smoke some weed to take my mind off of it? Should I go take a drink? Because in my family line, it's alcoholism. That's a generational curse that I want to break. What should I do? Because those things are so easy, right? Instead of saying, no, pray. Give it to God. I mean, I felt it all through my body. I was walking with a cane at one point. I felt broken. I remember we had finally found out where the chronic pain was coming from. I had to travel all the way to Rockville. And then on my way back, I almost died. And that was God really saying, hey, Alicia, he was shaking me. Like, where's your faith? Where's your trust? That tractor trailer rolled past me as that car was hitting me from the back and slid right past me like in a movie. And I hit that Jersey wall. And I hopped out that car. I ain't hop out with no cane or nothing. And all I could do on that highway is say, thank you, Jesus. That's all I kept repeating. Thank you, Jesus. It wasn't thank you, Alicia. It wasn't thank you, Buddha. It wasn't thank you. No, it was thank you, Jesus. Because God wanted me to see that he made it a way. And then I'm here for a reason. And I got to focus in on him. And at that point, it was real easy. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Because my kids could have been in the car. A few seconds later, I didn't have to even worry about anything else, because that tractor trailer was coming, and it was coming fast. That was it. Yeah. But God said no. And now I'm saying yes. And it's just that easy. It's just that hard, but then it's just that easy. So which one you want? That's all I'm asking you. Which one do you want? You want to continue struggling? You want to continue going through things? Now, I'm not saying to you that when you surrender to God, that everything is going to be peachy. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that you having faith in God and you trusting him helps you to go through things better than doing it by yourself. That's my answer.
No, I love that. I love that, because you mentioned a couple of things there, right? That I hopefully whomever is listening, hopefully it didn't go over your head, because there was a lot of great nuggets that you dropped right there. Like the one thing that I took away from this was the question was, did you get the message? Right? You know what I'm saying? Because we often would go through these things, and we forget, we miss the message that is trying to send me, because sometimes the message don't come the way that we want it to. It may look, the first time I ever experienced anything like this, the first message when I said that I needed to be a father, after saying I needed to be a man, I needed to learn how to be a man because I didn't know how to. I knew how to be a gangster. I knew how to be an inmate. I knew how to be a drug dealer. I knew how to be so many other things. I knew how to be a fighter in life, right? I knew how to protect people, but I never knew how to be a man. Because when you have people that's around you that you may model yourself behind, you when you get older, you realize that these are not the models of men. These are the models of survivors, right? And so I had to turn to the one person that I never even thought, like, hey, God, I need some help here, right? Now, I'm not ashamed to ask God for help, but the hardest thing about it is that it's really hard for me to ask other people for help. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I knew, yeah. Hey, at least I could trust this over here, right? I'm so used to people doing this over here. I'm gonna trust this one over here. And when I posed the words, I need to learn how to be a father. And this is why I said, did you get the message? Because the message that came to me didn't come from some grown man. It didn't come from some role model. It came from my son, right? And I was just like, at such an early age, I got on his case because he had done something at school. And it was something real simple, something really, really simple too. Son pulled me off to the side. He goes, Dad, I aged before? I go, yes, son, I have. He goes, did you make mistakes when you was my age? Like, yes, son, I did. He goes, that's the only thing I'm doing. I'm just learning. He goes, I don't think I should get in trouble for everything that I do when I'm just learning. And I thought about it for a minute. I was like, he just outsmarted me from getting himself in trouble, but he also gave me the message that I needed. So I stood around. I was like, you're absolutely right. And Alicia, what it did, it opened up my eyes to the way that my son viewed the world. And most kids view the world, right? They see the world as this big, huge playground. Everything is new to them every day, right? And everybody that they meet is a friend. Like, they always like, yeah. my friend. And, you're like, no, you don't even know that person. I know, but they're my friend. Like, oh, my God. They're not your friend. Oh, yes, they are. And then you have to argue with the kid about who's their friend and who's not their friend. Eventually, they just have a whole lot of friends, okay? Sometimes you just got to go with it. Sometimes you just have to go with it. Now, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, grief, right? Because you've had to experience your own grief and navigate that world as well. Let's dive into that a little bit. Let's talk about this thing called grief and how it impacted you in growing and developing into who you are today.
It's not fun losing anyone. Let's start there. It's not something that you even want to think about. When grief first happened, did I lose you?
You did. I was just messaging you. I was like, just froze up, which is fine. Now you're back. So you were saying when grief first happened, that's where you cut off at. So when grief first happened.
Absolutely. So when grief first happened for me, it actually was the death of my grandmother, my dad's mother. And I was young. I was like, I don't know. I was young, maybe 8 or 9. And I just remember seeing her in the casket and the smell of someone's cologne. at the funeral and going to bed that night and dreaming that she was in the casket, but then she got up and she turned around and looked at me and she started smiling. And I got scared. And my mom consoled me and she said, that's just grandma telling you that she's all right. And as I started to lose more people, the smell, something about the smell and so I was like, man, I don't like going to funerals. I don't like seeing sick people in the hospital. And it just does something to you because you're like, man, I just saw that person. I just talked to that person. But now I have to go on with life with that void. And you just continue going on. Very strong, dynamic women in my church that love me to the core like I was their own. Seeing them going through their journey. Seeing them passing on. And then having to do life without them. Scrolling through my phone. Seeing their number. But I can't call them because they ain't there. And then as I got deeper into my relationship with God, going in through my own biblical studies, starting to counsel people on my own, a light bulb went off. We only here for a moment. And seeing people pass away, even going through school, young, old, it don't matter. So you got to prepare yourself. And it make you look at death differently. And I was like, I got it. I know what to do. I can handle you grief. I got you. And then my mama got sick. I was like, no, this is my best friend. This not going. Nah. Fourth stage. You know what fourth mean? Mm-hmm. Fourth mean ain't nothing they can do but make you feel comfortable. So I'm praying. I mean, we're going through all of the different variations of treatment. And I'm seeing my mother year after year. She fought 3 years. Go down. And I remember my sister-in-law at the time, she said, when you start thinking about the death of your mom and what you're going through, I need you to get what you want. I need you to ask those hard questions. I need you to spend time with her and do the things that she wants to do and the things that you want to do with her. And I want you to live with no regret. I was like, okay. And I did. I asked those questions. You know, we went those places. And then as I saw her transitioning, literally, as those lines started to just go down, and we're there praying with her, singing with her. And I remember Holy Spirit said to tell your daddy to pray. And all my siblings, we were around her bedside with my father. And he said, I've been praying. I said, Daddy, you need to pray now. And he kissed my mother. And he told her, I love you. I love you, Antoinette. I love you. And the line started to go down. And as he started to tell her how much he loved her, that line went up. And then that line went back down and she was gone. And I said, man, out of all of the people that I've seen transition, I've never seen this. I've never felt this. And I was strong. I've done funerals as a minister, all of that. But this was different, Tony. I was able to usher my mother home. I was able to pray with my mother. I was able to see real love in transition. You know, when you make your vows and you talk about death do you part, I got to actually see it in real life. And after that, we stayed with her, we rubbed her, and she started to get cold. And I got in that lobby, and my brother-in-law, I was just like, that's it. That's it. That's it. And he hugged me so tight, and I just released. I talked to my husband. I said, like we talked about, I don't want to be here no more. Like, I want to move. And we did. We came down south. We stepped out on faith. I thank God for my husband. And we came here, and I remember just for months going through the motions, taking my kids to school, coming home, cooking. Because I had quit my job and everything, Tony. I just stepped out on faith. Looking out my bay window at the cows across our land, at the neighbors. And I mean, I had some hard times, some hard conversations. And I would journal. I'm a big dreamer. I would dream. I tell my husband some of my dreams, and he would say, Alicia, just be careful because you are really going through grief. I had meetings with my therapist. That was one of my keys that really helped. And that grief hit hard, man. And I had to show up strong for my kids because they had a really strong relationship with my mother, and they would say little things. And so now that when we see butterflies, it's like, that's my mama. That's my mama. Hey, mama. And they'd be like, hey, Nana, and they'll be in the car. They'd be like, I miss Nana so much. But I'm like, putting on my minister hat, my teachings, my principles, what God has shown me. I know she's in a better place, but she's not here with me. And it's gotten better. It's gotten better. Like I said, it's going on 4 years, but there are some times when it feels like day one all over again. But then I still have to show up, and I can't give up because my mother wouldn't give up. I remember asking her that last hospital visit when she got in that car. I said, are you giving up? And she said, no, I'm not. And I said, I can't give up because she was right there with me with all those children. What I went through, I can't give up because of the void that I feel. But I can feel it with other things because I know my mother, she would give of her last. I know my mother, she served in the church. I mean, sweat and tears into the church. Anybody call her, asking, she will give her. And so I know with the organization God has given us to birth, my mama is all in it. And to cherish her and to show respect and to continue on her legacy, I'm going to do my best to help people. And every soul that I can bring to Christ, every sinner that I can bring onto repentance, every broken vessel that I can help to repair, every woman that I can sit down, whether she is a young woman, middle age, or even older than me, that I can pour some wisdom into, I'm going to do that. Why? Because I do want to get over my grief of my mother. I want to make sure that I'm being a good steward and that I'm doing the work I need to do so that when God says it's my time, because we all have an appointed time, that I don't fear. I don't have any fear. That at the end of the day, I can say, Lord, I'm ready. I'm ready to see my mama. I'm ready to see all those dynamic women that have helped me, that I have stood on their shoulders, that they've prayed for me. I'm ready. So that's how I deal with my grief, and again, it's not a perfect walk. As I'm talking to you now, I'm choked up. But that's grief. But you just got to go through the stages.
This is true. And now I'm glad that you mentioned that because it leads me to my next question. What was the stages of grief like for you as you began to navigate it?
It was hard because in my family, I am the one that has always been the strongest, that people tend to lead to me and they're like, you got to answer, you know what to do. And even if I don't know what to do, I better figure it out quick. And so, I was with my mother. So we were venturing into being entrepreneurs, investors in real estate. And so we ended up moving back in with one another in a multi-level house. And so I was with my mother. So yes, my siblings would drop in, but it was me. It was me, my dad, and my husband. And so this was our reality. We were thick as thieves, like vacations, everything. And so it was very challenging because it changed my whole life. It changed my daily walk. I would call my mother at least 4 or 5 times a day. Like my husband be like, y'all on the phone again? Y'all literally a couple steps from each other. So it was just, yeah. Anywhere we went, like my friends like, where's mom? And where's mom? Any festivities we had, any event we had, my mom would help cook. And, so even like this event we just had 4th of July, my friend came over. I made sure I made stewed chicken because she loved my mother's stewed chicken. I was like, Lord, let me make sure I get it right because I want people to feel that. But the stages of grief, they're hard. They're really hard, especially when you're so close. But what really helped me is what I said before. My sister-in-law told me to get what I needed and get what I wanted. And so I didn't have any regrets. When I saw my mama's line going down, I was at peace, even though I was sad, because I knew I got what I needed. And I knew my mom was in a place where she was like, it's time. And I went to those apartments I went to those appointments with her. I saw her struggle. I saw her aches and her pains and, you know, all of what she went through. I remember laughing with her because when you have cancer, like your every touch, it hurts. And so I was putting her diabetic thing on her arm. And before I even put it in her arm, she was like, ouch. And so I was like, ouch, I didn't even touch you yet. And so me and my dad, we bust out laughing like, no, this ain't real. This ain't real. She faking like that. And so she was laughing too, but she was like, no, Alicia, you don't understand. So like we had moments with my mom that I can reflect on. So when I feel like, oh man, I miss my mother, I'm so sad. Like I have those moments to recall. And then I'm a big photographer, videographer to the point where everybody is like, man, they're so annoyed. Like, man, get the camera out my face. But now I have all the videos. I have all the receipts. And so I can literally just pull them up on my phone and watch videos with my mom, us laughing, having a good time. And it helps me with that grief. Now, sometimes I look at them when the stories come up, you know how you get memories and stuff on social media. You're like, oh, don't do that to me. And I'm like, man, it's one of those days. But then overall, it's more joy. It's more joy. It's more laughter. And that was my mom's personality, joy and laughter. And the days that I feel like, nope, it's day one again. If I need to stay in the bed and put the covers over my head, guess what, Tony? That's what I'm doing. Because grief is a process.
Yeah.
It's a process. And you just go through it. Even with my oldest, she couldn't hear a song as I love you, Lord. If she heard that song, she said, turn it off, turn it off. And I remember my sister-in-law saying, you got to tap into that. I don't know if you need to put her in therapy or what, but over the last few months, even when we talked about, I don't want to talk about, she's starting to talk. She's starting to open up. And I'm like, okay, so we unpacking her grief. You know, we're working through it together and having these real life conversations. And I don't know the exact terminology of all the phases of grief, but if you tap into it and research it, it kind of helps. I'm not that type of person. I don't like research stuff like that. But if I talk to my sibling, they be like, oh, this is the part of grief that you're in. I'm like, okay, that's great to know, you know, but I just know I'm going through it. I'm going through it. You know, and then like when people say, hey, when it's an anniversary or a birthday, I feel this way. I never really understood it until now. I'm going through with my mother. And I'm like, why are you starting to feel like that? Oh, her birthday's coming up. Oh, this holiday's coming up, because Mother's Day, we always spent it together. So it's just an ongoing process, and you just have to take it how it is and be okay with it. That's exactly what I tell my clients. Like, if you feel like today you can't get out of bed, that's fine. Don't push yourself. But tomorrow, you better get your tail up. You better get up. You better shake it off. You better use those tools. You better journal. And I'm going to tell you, journaling was my key. That is how we pushed out over 50 books in over a 3-year span, because I was journaling my tail off. One of the bestseller books that we have is called Seasons of Changing. And no one would know until I tell you, like I'm telling you now, that was out of my grief, watching my mother transition, and how I put it to the seasons that we go through and how I saw her transition. And I ended up putting it into a children's book in a more playful manner, but it made major impact. And so that's how I heal. I write.
See, and you know, I find that fascinating, because sometimes, well, a lot of times when you're going through your grief or you're healing your traumas and things like that, your gift is revealed to you, right? And sometimes it's right in front of you, that, and it blends in with everything else, that if you was to blink and look another way, you'd look right past it. I love the fact that you said, you know, that you slowed down and these things began to make sense with you, right? Like journaling became your friend, and then that became books, right? And it just manifested itself into so many other things, into your organization, you know, working with the women, and watching everything else kind of fall into place the way that it did. Like, I have a saying,